A Study in Scarlet, Part 2, Chapter 5. Jefferson Hope leads John and Lucy Ferrier through the treacherous mountain paths, constantly alert for signs of pursuit. By the second day, with their provisions running low, Hope leaves the Ferriers to hunt for food. After several fruitless hours, he finally kills a mountain goat, but in his eagerness, Hope gets lost returning to camp in the fading light. When he finally finds the path leading back, he shouts joyfully to alert his companions, but receives no response. Hurrying into their hiding place, he finds the camp deserted, except for the smouldering remains of a fire. Horse tracks indicate a large party of riders had overtaken the fugitives and returned to Salt Lake City. Desperately searching for clues, Hope finds a freshly dug grave with a makeshift headstone, identifying it as John Ferrier's resting place. Realizing Lucy must have been recaptured and forced to go through with the marriage, Hope sinks into despair. But thoughts of revenge soon rekindle his resolve. For days he relentlessly retraces his steps back to the settlement, driven by an indomitable thirst for vengeance. Arriving back in the valley, Hope spots celebratory flags flying in Salt Lake City. He learns from a passing Mormon acquaintance that Lucy was married to Drebber the previous day. Apparently there was some argument between Drebber and Stangerson over who would claim her, but Drebber's faction proved dominant. The Mormon also callously remarks that Lucy looked deathly ill at the wedding and likely won't live long. Shattered, Hope retreats into the wilderness to nurse his grief and plot retribution. Within a month, word reaches him that Lucy has indeed died, whether from heartbreak over her father's death or the trauma of the forced marriage. In a daring move, Hope sneaks into the room where Lucy's body is laid out and kisses her forehead in farewell, snatching the wedding ring from her finger before escaping. Hope then begins terrorizing Drebber and Stangerson, stalking the outskirts of the city and making attempts on their lives. The men lead posses into the wilderness to kill Hope, but always fail. Eventually, feeling the strain of his harsh life as a fugitive, Hope reluctantly retreats to the Nevada mines to rebuild his strength and fortune, knowing he must stay alive to fulfill his vengeance. Though he plans to only be away a year, it is 5 years before Hope can return. In that time, Drebber and Stangerson have fled Salt Lake City as part of a schism in the Mormon community, taking their wealth with them. Undeterred, Hope begins a dogged pursuit that spans years and thousands of miles, trailing them from city to city across America and eventually to Europe. Finally catching sight of them in Cleveland, Hope's bloodlust surges. But before he can act, Drebber spots him and reads the murderous intent in his eyes. Drebber preemptively has Hope arrested and detained on trumped-up charges, giving him and Stangerson time to sail for Europe. After weeks in jail, Hope is released, only to find his quarry escaped. With admirable persistence, Hope tracks the men to St. Petersburg, Paris, Copenhagen, and finally London. The chapter ends on a cliffhanger, mentioning that what transpires in London is recorded in Dr. Watson's journal, which has been the source for the strange tale being recounted. This chapter is full of action and heartbreak, as Hope's dreams for a future with Lucy are dashed. His transformation into a hardened vigilante, devoting his life to avenging his lost love, lends a dark, gothic tone to the story. Drebber and Stangerson's flight across 2 continents emphasizes their guilt and creates a globe-spanning chase. Hope's implacable pursuit, sacrificing years of his life, demonstrates both his resourcefulness and the depth of his obsession. The reference to Dr. Watson's journal at the end provides a reframing perspective, reminding readers that this frontier romance and revenge thriller is part of the larger mystery introduced in the novel's opening chapters. With this plot turn, the backstory of the crime in London starts to come into focus.